Hi everybody, this is Rich Gibbons with SpeakInc, and today we are here with Dr. Julie Williamson. Julie, it's great to see you.
Thank you so much.
It's great to be here. We are at an industry event, big group of event marketers. We had about 500 in the audience about an hour ago, and Julie had everybody leaning in and thinking intensely about their practice.
Yeah.
It was a very, very compelling session. And it was around, Julie is, remind me, social
scientist. Yeah.
social scientist and business strategy expert.
Yeah.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. So I think what was most, as a kind of layperson in the audience,
Yeah.
one of the things that was really compelling to me was how do we think about planning versus strategy? And there were a number of different, Julie is funny, self-deprecating, she had everybody laughing. But having the case studies come alive to explain the difference between, and one of them was the Southwest Airlines, that really made it come alive in my head. But Southwest Airlines, their strategy was to be
Cost leadership.
Yep.
Bring air travel to the masses.
With operational simplicity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the example was cited. So just share with the people out on the intertubes the 737 example and how you think about the Airbus and
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I think sometimes we get lost in is that we can execute perfectly on a plan and lose the strategy altogether. And one of the things that Southwest has done really well over the years is they've committed to the Boeing 737.
Right.
And that means they don't have any other planes in their system. And that keeps everything super simple for them. They only need one type of pilot, one type of mechanic, one set of spare parts. All of these things become easier when you only fly one type of plane.
Right.
And so I asked the audience to imagine, what if you were trying to launch a new market and you had to make sure that everything got done on time, and then you found out that you couldn't get a 737 on time, but maybe you could get an Airbus 320. What decision do you make? And if you're making a decision about getting the plan accomplished, you might say yes.
getting a plane.
Exactly.
I need a plane now,
Yeah.
and if it's an Airbus, I don't care. Just give me that. Right.
Because I just got to get the plan on schedule and on budget. But if you go back to the strategy and you think we're cost leadership, operational simplicity, that means we fly one plane and one plane only, then you say no to that Airbus 320, and you stick with the strategy of operational simplicity. So the strategy doesn't tell you what decision to make. It tells you what tough trade-offs you need to make in order to get to a decision.
And one of the things that came out of strategy is, strategic planning and strategy for the average Joe feels a little intimidating, and it's all a little bit abstract. But the thing that I liked that came out of your program was that planning can be incredibly granular, and you can wrestle it down and you can really drive it.
Yeah.
But strategy is a little looser. We kind of want to be going in this general direction, but we have to be comfortable. What do you say? Comfortable with uncertainty.
With the uncertainty, yes,
right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I think that is a big part of strategy, is getting comfortable with the uncertainty of it. Plans feel good because you can look at the list of things to do and be like, check, 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 right? You get the little dopamine.
I'm making progress.
Yeah, exactly. And you should be like, okay, I've got my head wrapped around this, right? But strategy is about possibilities. What's possible to accomplish?
Right.
And how can we explore those possibilities?
Right.
And then what's the plan that can bring those possibilities to life? So to go back to the Southwest example, it's possible to scale air travel to the masses through a cost leadership position that depends on operational simplicity. What's the plan that helps you bring that to life? And they're two different things.
The thing that there were a lot of things to like about Julie's program, but you made the whole sort of rubric of strategy very accessible and emphasized as part of it. She had a great trifold, and I was reaching for mine. I was like, I got to keep this, but just this notion that it should not be, what was it, the thud factor?
Yeah.
If your strategy is in a 3-ring binder that's that thick,
Yeah.
it needs to be simplified. The thud factor being if you can thud someone over the head with it, it's too verbose, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of what you advanced was, number one, it was instantly accessible to everybody. It kind of brought strategy down to a level where people could buy into it. But the other thing that I thought was really, really important, and these are people that, the audience this morning was comprised of people who put on events that are mammoth. There are a million things to track and do. And you respectfully said, now when you're in the red zone, you got 2 weeks to go, maybe strategy takes a little bit of a backseat. You've got to do the whack-a-mole thing, and you got to get the ball over the goal line.
Yeah.
But strategy, when you're 3 months out, can inform more intelligent decisions based on, what's our North Star here? What are we trying to get done? And I think this kind of audience grapples with event owners and stakeholders where they're not even sure what their strategy is.
Yeah, exactly. I think often people don't know what their strategy is.
Right.
Or they just assume that everybody knows what the strategy is, but nobody's actually said it out loud.
Right.
Because it's hard to find the words for it sometimes.
Right.
But we always say that a plan without a strategy is potential untapped.
Yep.
But a strategy without a plan is ambition unrealized. You need both. You've got to have both in the mix, but too often people go towards the plan because it feels comfortable and understandable.
And you get to check things off.
And we know what a good plan looks like. We don't really know what a good strategy looks like. And that's in part because strategy changes. The definition of it changes depending on what the modifier is. Is it a corporate strategy? Is it a go-to-market strategy? Is it a sales strategy? Is it an HR strategy? Is it an event strategy in this case?
Right.
And so what kind of strategy it is changes the shape of it. Now for a big corporate strategy where you're doing major mergers and acquisitions, maybe you do have a big binder that says, here's all the data that goes behind, here's all the research that we've done. That's cool, but at the end of the day, you should be able to succinctly articulate your strategy, which is, in that example, potentially to grow through acquisition, right?
Yep.
But with an event strategy, so people have that construct in their mind. It has to be big and complicated, and you have to pay millions of dollars for it, and it's very time consuming.
And you alluded to Herb Kelleher, the founder of one of the founders of Southwest Airlines. I mean, his whole strategy was distilled onto a cocktail napkin.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're sort of the rule of the cocktail napkin. If you can't write it on a cocktail napkin, it's probably too convoluted.
Probably too complicated. Now, I don't want to downplay at all the level of complexity and intention that people put into the work that goes behind their strategies. So there was certainly a lot of market research to inform Southwest and their strategy, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people do a lot of great thinking around it. But at the end of the day, if you want to use your strategy to make good decisions about your plan, then you need to be able to distill it to a few bullet points that people can hold on to and remember. And they can then apply to the decisions that happen around their plan.
There's a great moment in Julie's program where, strategic plan, you're like, it's around here somewhere. It's in one of these drawers, and it's probably in a big 3-ring binder.
Exactly.
It should just be, you bump into somebody in the hallway. And the other takeaway that I thought was really cool was, if you bump into somebody in the hallway, number one, they should be able to articulate the strategy, like know why are we here and what are we doing, right? But secondly, if you ask 9 more people, you'd get 10.
Probably 10 different answers.
you don't want 10 different answers.
Exactly.
You want 10 to be the same, and
Exactly.
you'll probably get more alignment and same to the extent it is streamlined and simple.
Absolutely.
Right.
That you can apply it.
Right.
You should be able to apply it to decisions that impact the plan.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really loved today was when one of the audience members shared that their approach to strategy starts with empathy. And I think that is such a great articulation of what I believe strategy is. It's about potential. It's about what could we do? What's possible for us to achieve if we execute on a really good plan.
Right.
And so that does start with empathy, right? Strategy can be more about heart than, planning is very much about head, right? Like how are we logically going through things?
Right.
The strategy is all about exploring the potential to do great things.
Yeah.
And if you don't take the time to articulate what those things can be, then you leave that untapped.
Yeah. One closing thought. I always admire speakers that tend to be less chest pounding and listen to all my awesome ideas and awesome thoughts, and are humble and self-deprecating and funny, and just a quick overview of the ski trip. Just tell the viewers that, which was great.
Yeah, I can tell you that 30 years later, I still get teased mercilessly about this by my friends and family, which is that when I was in my 20s, I had invited a lot of people into my house in Colorado and for the December holidays, and I made a project plan for that. and I made a PowerPoint presentation for it.
Because you're a planner.
Exactly.
Right.
And that went over like a lead balloon. Nobody appreciated my amazing plan.
And the laughter in the room was really genuine because I think
a lot of those people did it.
These are planners too, and they really they like the checklist and they could totally identify.
Yeah. I said they should have been my friends and family.
Right.
But I think what I was explaining with that is that I got a little bit lost in the plan and felt like the plan was determining whether or not I was a good host. But really what determines whether or not I'm a good host is if the possibility of coming together and having fun and connecting with each other is delivered, right? And the plan should be in support of that. The plan doesn't determine the fun and connection. That comes from the possibility of doing that when we come together. And when I got my head lost in the plan and whether the plan was being executed step by step, that was really uncomfortable for me. I felt like, oh my gosh, we got to get back on the plan. But everybody else is like, things are fine. Like, we're having fun.
Right.
Just put
but also to your point that a strategy, we're gonna have this nice warm family connection, and all the details are gonna work out. Well, sometimes they don't.
They
like,
never do.
We should have made a reservation for ski equipment.
That's right.
There's this. What I liked about your program was the acceptance to the reality that these two things have to peacefully coexist, and you can't ignore one over the other. You can't overemphasize one over the other.
That's right.
But and this is where I felt like it was really down-to-earth, pragmatic advice for people that have to think about this kind of stuff. And how do I think about it? So I think it was a terrific framework for how people should think about these two things that they all have to grapple with.
Yeah, I think we have to grapple with it in life and at work and in all sorts of situations. So I really enjoyed it. It was a great audience, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be up there. It was really a lot of fun.
As usual, you made us look like geniuses for recommending you, so thank you for a great work. And anybody out on the intertubes looking for thought, this really dovetails with leadership. Obviously strategy, but any other audiences that should be considering this kind of content that would add value to their audience's worldview?
Yeah, I think the content lands really well with lots of different kinds of people, but especially people who are trying to step into that strategy space where they're feeling like we really need our leaders to wrap their arms around the idea of strategy in a very different way.
Right.
And I think that this kind of content lands really well with that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
And we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.